Nebraska Preps postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
That's the big voice guy. It is Nebraska Preps postgame, and there is a lot happening. I get my main man, Jacob Padilla, for another week, and this time we are starting playoffs. It's that time of year. Hard to believe. We talked about this as a team when it was like week 7, and it came up again when it was week 8, and we for sure talked about it getting on the bus Friday, that before you know it, you blink and the season is over. And we didn't want to be one of those teams that's packing up equipment and or anything like that. And so we started having those conversations early, and here we are, and it is week 9. And it's over. The regular season is over just like that.
Yeah. And you kind of get to that point in the season where, like, the first half of the year, you're like, oh, there's plenty of season left. I'll be able to see this team and this team. I'll just wait and wait. And then once you pass that halfway point, especially like in a 9-game season, you get to that game 5, game 6, you're like, oh, geez, the season's almost over. Like, it just goes downhill in a hurry. But here we are, 10 weeks in the books with the week 0 games, and ready for the playoffs to start.
Yeah, there is some very interesting seedings and an interesting last week that kind of flipped a lot of the seedings, when that's where like strength of schedule and wild card points and seeing things through to the end really, really matters. And there's nothing worse, in my opinion, in sports than having to quietly pay attention to what other teams are doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just doesn't seem like that should be part of the deal. But with wild card points and the way things work with tiers 1, 2, and 3, like it matters.
Yeah. And the old sports cliche, coaches always say, control, you can control, but other things still matter. And you have to, it's just kind of painful watching those things that you can't control, knowing that they're going to determine your fate to a certain degree. But yeah, that's why, I mean, saw all the numbers crunchers on Friday night kind of scrambling after a couple of those last results turn things around quite a bit for the last iteration.
South Bell East proved to be big. There was one more. Was it Lincoln Southwest losing that?
They beat Millard North.
Millard North turned out to be fairly substantial. We didn't know if we were cheering for or against Millard North, but we did know one thing. If Millard North won and got in, that would have been 7 of the 9 teams that we played on our schedule that were in the playoffs, which ultimately is still 6 out of 9. And when Millard North is the 7th team and they don't get in, you still know you're playing a good football team. That's one of the things that we felt good about all year, was that we had a pretty tough schedule.
Well, and that's the reason you're the 1 seed, despite losses where you've had 2 really good teams that went undefeated in Gretna and Elkhorn South as the 2 and the 3. Comes down to those wild card points and the strength of schedule.
Yeah, very, very. Did you get caught up in the calculations? Because they were minuscule between 1, 2, and 3.
I never do it. I'm like, occasionally I'll kind of peek at it, but it's like I'll just react once we have them. I'll let all those other people do the work for me, and then cheat off of people like the good people over at NEB Preps and our friend Fo Woodard, and I'll let all those guys that have been doing this for a while.
Else. He has got some. He's got some time on his hands because he'll crunch them by the week.
Yeah.
And he'll give you predictions.
Yeah.
Just basically contingencies, if upsets. Like you could tell he's pretty well versed because he's got a ton of time, and it's hard to believe when he's coaching a high school basketball team. As Coach Woodard is, that he has time to pay attention to football.
Oh, he's been doing this for a long time, so I'm sure he's figured out a way to optimize his time management.
Yeah, for Woodard, the dean in that Bellevue West High School building, as we joke tongue in cheek. But so, any surprises?
No, I mean, you look at kind of the top teams. Lincoln East held Gretna to 28 points, but still a 28-6 win. They couldn't quite find a way to score. Florida, obviously, we know Isaiah Weber's been out. Gretna ran the ball 18 times for 30 yards. So credit to Lincoln East defense there, but Zane Flores, 31 for 47 for 381 yards and 3 touchdowns. Had a couple of 100-yard receivers in Tyson Boganowski and Blake Moore, who also had an interception on defense. And then Corver Dema kind of had the pick 6 to seal it there, plus 3 sacks, 7 tackles. So just all around solid performance by Gretna. But you gonna looking ahead, like hopefully they're going to need to get that running game going a little bit. Probably you don't want to ask Flores to throw the ball 50 times every single 4 straight weeks.
So 2 teams that can play in a similar manner, especially with ground and pound and offensive and defensive line play. Is there anything that's intriguing about the 215 with Gretna and Lincoln Southeast for you? You've seen Lincoln Southeast.
Yep. I mean, Lincoln Southeast, I mean, they've got some really good players for like typical 15 seed. I think Butenbach had another big game this last week, 170 yards or something like that on the ground. So they've got some difference making players. Obviously, got some young guys on defense in the trenches. But Gretna, I think they're just so solid at this point. I don't know that Southeast has quite enough firepower to keep that close. Again, like Lincoln East did about as well as you could to keep up with them and still lost by 3 scores. So I think in East is probably somewhat comparable to Southeast just based on results and how the season went.
It's funny you bring that up because there's 3 district champs who have less than 42 wild card points, which you don't see a ton, right? Millard South finished as the district champs with 40 wild card points, but in their district is 5-4 Lincoln East, 4-5 Lincoln North Star, 4-5 Lincoln High, and 1-8 Columbus. You jump down to District 4. As tough as Creighton Prep's schedule was early, right? We talked about like they could easily be 1-2 or 1-3, and it wouldn't surprise anybody, right? Well, maybe Prep. I stand corrected. So they finished with 40.6, but in their district, 4-5 Papiola Vista, who in my opinion is not a normal 16, 2-7 Burke, 3-6 Benson, 1-8 Central. It really, really hurts. And then you jump all the way down to the aforementioned Lincoln, another Lincoln school with Southeast and Southwest. Southwest finishes with 41.2 wild card points. Again, all relatively low considering, but you look at the district play. 6-3 Millard West, it's pretty good too. But then 5-4 Southeast, 4-5 Millard North, 3-6 Bryan, 2-7 South Sioux City. So it's really it appears to be the bottom of your district that can really swing things if you don't play a tough non-district schedule.
Yeah. So again, when it's only a 9-game season, each game carries that much more weight. And when you've only got a few non-district games in there, it's luck of the draw with your district. And you just got to hope some of the teams that end up on there end up either living up to expectations or maybe being even better than you thought. And there are a lot of teams that just maybe that wasn't the case this year. There are a lot of teams that are kind of struggling a little bit this season, and a lot of them ended up in a few of the same districts.
So we talked about Gretna, the pass attempts, the balance. We wonder what's going to happen with their running back situation. How healthy will they be heading into this one as they open with Lincoln Southwest? About what you thought for this Gretna team this year with Flores and company, losing a great player like Roll, having some other guys have to step up. You lost, your running back situation will be interesting with Weber and what happens going forward there. But do you like this team's ability to having kind of the next man up mentality? Their culture reigns supreme.
Definitely. And they've had a lot of guys that have stepped up and play. I mean, they've controlled a lot of games, so they've gotten a chance to get reps for a lot of guys.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I mean, how many we had a few games there where Weber was on an absolute roll, multiple 100-yard games in a row, but they also had a few games, especially in the season, where you had a bunch of different guys, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different guys getting 2, 3, 4, 5 carries in the backfield. Defensively, guys have been rotating in and out. So the advantage of it on the. It's kind of what Elkhorn South has run into, where they had so many blowouts in a row that their starters are playing 2 quarters, if that. So on the one hand, you're getting your backups a lot of reps and a chance to build some depth, but on the other, you'd also like to be a little bit more well tested. Like I was talking with Danny Noonan, and he said like that Grand Island game, like Maverick was kind of winded there because it's just not used to playing very long because they've taken care of business so early.
He's so honest. So for like a sports dad who was really good at his craft too, he's about as grounded as they come when it comes to giving assessments, not only of his own kid and his own team, but across the metro, man. I enjoy talking to him. I kind of was picking his brain for the last 3 or 4 years, and I really enjoy Noonan.
Yeah. It's always fun running into those kind of parents, as opposed to some of the others out there.
Because I mean, Julie, they're just. I mean, you could just tell good stock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, with Alec and Maverick and just the way that they approach it.
And that was a game that I went to on Friday. Obviously, we were kind of building up towards that Elkhorn South Omaha North game. Lost a lot of luster when North lost to Grand Island the week before, and then North just wasn't able to. Just so many things went wrong on both sides of the ball. They had some stretches where you could see it, like a third of Tayshawn Porter's carries went for double-digit yards. He still cracked 100 yards. They had like their one touchdown, beautiful throw from Circo to Trey Brown, who's obviously got some top end speed there going to Wayne State. And there was one play where Circo, 3rd and long, got absolutely crushed, just threw it up. The defender went up and broke up a pass, but it was kind of 50-50 ball. The receiver had a chance to go get it as he got like driven to the ground. Like it was a big time hit right in front of me, and he gave the ball a chance. Like there were some stretches there where like you could see it, but then also obviously two bad interceptions. Only completed 6 of his 16 passes. So he was really, really good during the 5 or so games when he came back from the injury. But the competition, didn't face a winning team during that stretch. So these last 2 weeks are the first time he's faced a real defense with talent.
A game that we've watched, we're kind of watching on Huddle. At 21-0 when it goes at the half, what was kind of the vibe you got between the two teams? Because I felt like the game was closer than the score, but I'm not there, so I can't tell what the feel is.
And there were a lot of penalties that kind of just disrupted the flow a little bit there. But you kind of felt like it's 21-0, but North, they had some stretches there again where they were getting Porter the ball and they were moving a little bit. And then a hold or a penalty, staying over on the north sideline, and somebody said that it should be legal to hold Maverick Noonan because it's not fair otherwise. And he basically single-handedly disrupted one of their drives where drew a holding penalty and then got a sack on the next play, and suddenly it's 3rd and forever, and they got no shot.
Enough to discern as you're watching a game in the trenches between a Prohaska, a Noonan, Cerise Henderson, Ryan Terry, or excuse me, Tyson Terry, Ty Stewart, like clear advantage for Elkhorn South, or did you think that some of those horses up front for North, like what's the difference in your opinion right now between like a Maverick Noonan and a Tyson Terry?
Obviously different positions a little bit, but yeah.
Both guys dabbling more into playing both ways.
Yeah.
One's quite a bit older than the other.
I will say, Noah Bustard,
a great player.
He had a great game.
He's their my opinion. He's their unsung hero.
Yeah.
He is way good.
He was the one that delivered that crushing blow on Circo that I mentioned. He also had a sack. Heard his name a few times there. Tyler Stewart, he made a few plays. I heard his name as well. Had broken up a pass at the line, had a couple of nice tackles or whatever. But just kind of the whole unit. You didn't hear. There's one splash play for Tyson Terry ended up there was a penalty on the play, so Elkhorn or North stopped Elkhorn South in the goal in the red zone on 3rd down twice, penalties both times, gave him another shot, and then finally on the 3rd down, Carson Ronner took it in himself. That was a big play there because like if you get that stop, hold them to a field goal there, maybe something happens. maybe they go for it and you stop them, like then you're feeling good about yourself. You got a chance here. They had those positive plays wiped away. I think that really hurt, and then to give up the score. And then you said 21-0, still like, well, this isn't necessarily complete. Like if North can just get one play here, get themselves going a little bit,
Cole
and
Ballard
then
answered
first
that
play
question.
of the second half, 84 yards, just his ability to find the hole, plant, and go, the breakaway speed, and then his balance. That's the thing.
It's his best attribute.
Yeah.
He's been that way his entire life. Playing against him as a young kid, his balance is exceptional.
And that run, like, so 84 yards, like broke away from everybody. There's one defender, gives him just kind of slight hesitation, just enough to squeeze by him, and then tightrope the last 10 yards up the sideline into the end zone without stepping out. Like it was just a phenomenal run. And man, he is really good. And he was quiet in the first half. Only had like 9 carries for 38 yards. And then his next 2 carries were for 84 and a touchdown, and I believe 45 and a touchdown. So game over there. And he, congrats to Cole Ballard, led Class A in touchdowns with 31. I believe it was between punts, reception. I think he had 33. Sorry, he added 2 more in this last one, so he was at 31. But 2 punt return touchdowns, I believe, 4 receiving touchdowns, and then the rest all on the ground. 27 rushing touchdowns. And again, we talked about how little that he's been playing. Most games he's been done by halftime.
Yeah.
And even in this game, he only carried the ball 12 times. So you look at some of the other leading backs in the state, he's got 30, 40, 50 carries less because of their schedule, the way he's played out, and still led the state or led the class in touchdowns.
Now the trade-off for being a 3 seed, and they're at home until the semis potentially. So I don't think they're terribly upset about that, and I don't want to speak for them, but the trade-off was their health. They're one of the few teams that has not really had to overcome a major injury like some of the aforementioned top 5 teams in the state. They have remained extremely healthy, which is always critical at this time of the year.
Absolutely. And you look at it, because they've got all their pieces. They've got a dynamic running back. Jackson Moore-Swan can go up and like the first touchdown, he just torched the guy off the line, threw him. Nice throw from Ronner. Second one, jump ball, he just went up and mossed the kid. Like I thought it was going to be picked. And somehow like they both went down to the ground, and Jackson jumped up and tossed the ball to the refs. Like, oh, okay then. So like that's the guy. Like you look at his stats aren't eye popping this season because they don't have to throw it much because of how well they can run it and the blowout situations or whatever. But any given game, he can go torch a DB. That's a really nice weapon to have. So and then defense, we talked about that front. And they just so tough to go against. Like that's the same thing with Gretna, that defensive front in high school. Like if you've got a game wrecking defensive lineman up front in the middle, especially with all the running offenses or whatever, if you can't run, then that life gets really difficult for you. And they've got the kind of line that can make life really difficult for anyone they play.
One of the things that the top 3 seeds have in common is defensive line play with JQ Osler and Campbell at Westside. You've got Bustard, Prohaska, obviously Maverick Noonan at Elkhorn South, and Damon, Mason Goldman and company at Gretna. The D-line play is it's at a high level for those 3 schools.
No doubt. And that's why they're the top 3 seeds. You got really good quarterback play. You got great running backs, and you got a fierce defensive front line. That is a winning recipe in football at any level, but especially in high school.
Now we've got business to take care of, but it's interesting that Gretna and Elkhorn South are on both sides of the ledger with Creighton Prep, who's built the same way on the bottom half with Elkhorn South, Lincoln East, North Platte, and Creighton Prep, those bottom 4, but a very dangerous 7 seed in Bell West looming if they get past Papiola Vista South in a redo from a week ago
that's
and playing, getting the Gretna Lincoln Southeast winner.
Yeah, and Bellevue West won 42-20
Pretty
when they just played
workmanlike.
last week. It was 28-10 at half, and they just kind of kept creating a little bit more distance there. They didn't not a whole lot on the ground. Gio Contreras didn't play. They got Charlie Gewinner back, who got hurt in the season
big
opener.
deal. Yeah, that's from a collarbone.
Happy for him that he was able to get back out there, because basically first play of your season to go down, that's brutal. So happy to see him back out there. But
Don't think I'm not doing that math in my head. 2 weeks removed. Can Westside hang on 2 more weeks? What a chance to get Caleb back is something we're chomping at the bit, as he's now starting to condition. So it's encouraging.
Yeah. But Danny Kalen, 19 for 29 for 357 yards, 5 touchdowns. He ran the ball 5 times for 25 yards.
He had the one crease. It was pretty nice too on the QB scamper. And I'm just thinking, if they add, that's when Coach Huffman and that offense are at their best, when they can then incorporate some sort of quarterback run game.
Hey, we talked about with Bell West, kind of like week to week, it could be a different receiver. Well, how about 139 yards for each of Davon Hall and Isaiah McMorris?
The 80-yarder from Hall with the acceleration.
Hall did that on 3 catches. 2 of them were touchdowns. McMorris, 8 catches, 1 touchdown. So
again, good after the catch. He had the 67-yarder, which I think 60 of it was running.
Yeah. And Devin Jones was back for Papio South, so it was good to see that. 29 carries, 136 yards, and a touchdown. But just didn't quite have enough to keep up with the Thunderbirds. But so if that holds true, we're looking at a rematch of that Gretna Bellevue West game potentially in the second round. Which, man, that's exciting to see. You guys, so that's a tough draw for those guys. You see, so Gretna could potentially get Bellevue West and then Elkhorn South. That strength of schedule for you guys certainly
paid dividends.
Yeah, no doubt.
It paid dividends.
That is an intriguing North Platte, Creighton Prep, 2 similar teams at this point based on what we've seen from Prep this season.
North Platte, we got a chance to watch them again because they just played Papillion La Vista, who we opened with. So we're kind of going through that film and watching, and Prep has to be, I think that game's virtually a toss-up, even though it's a 6-11.
Yeah.
But you have to be very sound in your run defense to play North Platte, because Tilford really only needs a step, and the rest is history.
So, that was a 36-29 win for North Platte against Papillion La Vista. So the Monarchs hung in there, but so 151 yards in score for Brock Robley, the kind of the power back in that option attack. 176 on just 16 carries for Tilford and 3 touchdowns, which
unfortunately, we've seen that firsthand.
He also had 11 tackles and 3 pass defenses. He had a 49-yard punt return. So it just kind of another day at the office for that kid.
He's so good. Yeah. I'm telling you, he arguably had run of the game and hit of the game when we played them in North Platte. He sized up Anthony Rizak in the open field, which is,
that's not easy to
is hard to do. And not only did he get him to the ground, I mean, it was one of the better hits of the night. Tilford is a complete 2-way guy.
But like you said, you've got to stay disciplined. Probably the difference in that game, 60-yard passing touchdown to Landon O'Brien. So they'll hammer you. You've got to stay disciplined on that back end, though, because you lose a guy, then that's like
we gave up a 3rd and 11 on their only completion of the game that kept that drive going.
Yeah, because if you're giving up one something like that's stealing points for them, because you know what they're going to do with that running attack. So you add them passing touchdown on top of that. That's tough to deal with. Peyton Prestito, you guys are going to have
really good
big deal on your hands with that. 26 carries for 225 yards.
I like both
3
backs.
touchdowns.
They're both pretty good, and they're getting good quarterback play too, which is a nice compliment to Ingerson.
And that's the thing, like Papillion La Vista, they've been feisty all season. They haven't been able to quite pull off the wins outside of that Lincoln Southwest game, but they're not a team that's been blowing out a ton this season either for a team that finished below 500. So like you said, they're a pretty live 16 seed. We talked about that North coming off that loss to Elkhorn South. They get a rematch with Grand Island 2 weeks after. And that one's tough to get a read on, because Grand Island forced 6 turnovers in that game to win a close game.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens again for North, but also you look at the way that they've looked the last 2 weeks, they don't look like a confident football team. They don't look like a team that's playing their best football right now after a long stretch against some of the bottom teams in the state. Let's see, have they learned anything from these last 2 weeks? Can they, especially with all the young guys they've got playing, have they been able to learn, all right, what went wrong here? Can we fix it now? That's the question for them heading into this game. The 4-13 there, like North, you've got a guy like Porter on that team. You've got some dynamic weapons on the outside. Like that's not a typical 13 seed. But at the same time, they haven't been playing, I think, up to their talent level the last 2 weeks against some really good teams. So question is, can they learn from that? Can they fix those mistakes? Because they've got the ability to certainly win that game.
Before we move off of that half of the bracket, Gretna Southeast, Bellevue West, Papio South, Elkhorn South versus Lincoln East, North Platte, Creighton Prep. Any upsets in your opinion in that one? If you want to call North Platte, Creighton Prep an upset, but is there a lower seed that you believe advances
on that half of the bracket? That would be the one that I'm looking at, and they're both 6-3. Again, similar teams, really run heavy teams. The question is Marty Brown's health. I feel good about Prep probably getting that one if Sharmar Brown can play, but
tried to come back last week. So I guess we'll see, right? Pending.
Yeah. So that's the question there. That's the only one that I see. Because I feel like Elkhorn South, Bellevue West, and Gretna, they've got the advantage in all three of those games pretty handily.
We haven't touched on obviously West Side. On the other side, I think probably a legit 3, the 1 seed, but probably the number 3 team heading into this one behind Gretna and Elkhorn South gets by. Lincoln Northeast, kind of business as usual, a little bit of a ho-hum. I felt like I didn't love our energy, but I felt like
it's a tough spot to be in with the.
It is, but we felt like we could potentially be playing for a 1 and the district championship, which is always important. So I mean, but again, proving kind of to be a second half team. We in fantastic shape, I think, but we got to get off to better starts.
Well, so. For the listeners, it tells kind of the standard that he holds his team to. They were up 49-0 at half. They gave up 131 total yards in the game, won 63-7.
I know it doesn't sound right. First couple 3 and outs, like it was just a little. We have got to start games better, right? How many times we've gone in at the half trailing?
Well, that's what got you in trouble against Millard South. Yeah. Took that to overtime, falling behind 14-0.
Got us against North Platte. Yeah. We had to come back from behind against Bellevue West. Like at some point, it's you got to have the rooster mentality. We got to get up early.
Yeah. So we mentioned West Side, Padilla Vista. The 8-9, the other side over there on that bracket is Lincoln Southwest against Millard West. I think two pretty similar teams that have kind of been in and out of the fringe back end of the top 10 all season long. Got some good wins, but also some like what happened there games. What are you looking forward to seeing in that one?
Well, is Mr. Jackson over at Millard West, who isn't a secret to those, or Williams, I should say, Jackson Williams
yeah.
You
can call him
Mr. Jackson. Yeah. Isn't a secret to his opponents, but I think is a well-kept secret within the state. Can Southwest contain him? Because he, on Friday night, will be the most dynamic player on the field, and I'm not sure it's close. He is an absolute handful, both receiving and in special teams.
Yeah. And Southwest earned that seed, pulling off the win against Millard North in the final regular season game. It was 28-all after 3 quarters, and then Southwest just controlled the fourth quarter, 14-0 to win that 42-28. Kyle Newell, another 100-yard rushing game. And we've talked about some of the best backs in the state. He's quietly been right up there in terms of the production that he's given them all season long. Seems like every game that I've seen, he's over 100 yards. But Millard North, just the back end, just did not hold up. 8 of 11 passing for Colin Fritton for 250 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also ran a touchdown in. So 6 total touchdowns for their quarterback there on just 22 touches. It's a pretty good ratio there. Jack Batista, 4 catches, 118 yards and 3 scores. And then Jackson Carpenter, 3 catches for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. So really, they had 2 guys you had to guard, and Millard North couldn't do it.
And how about this? Not as bad as running it right back like Papio La Vista South and Bellevue West, but Lincoln Southwest gave up the 14 unanswered in the fourth to Millard West 2 weeks ago. And that one, the Silverhawks feel got away from them as they lost 27-23 in a game in which they led for 3.5 quarters. They get a chance to run it back just 2 weeks later in a playoff opener.
See, that's the thing. Like you look at the Bellevue West and Papillion Vista South. You don't like seeing back-to-back games back-to-back where it was kind of one team controlled it throughout. But games like this and the Grand Island North game where there's some revenge on the mind there. It's recent, but you had a week kind of go figure some things out. Yeah. And close games, competitive, like those got a chance to be 2 of the best games of the first round for sure.
Slight advantage to Millard West. It is the Jackson Williams factor, but that was a game early that Southwest controlled. They just had no answer for Jackson Williams late. We'll see who's learned their lesson. Can they neutralize Jackson Williams, and can Southwest not get away from the game plan like what happened to him in the fourth quarter like 2 weeks ago?
Then the last one on before we kind of speed through some of the others, Kearney against Millard South. That's an intriguing one as well. Millard South, not typical 12 seed.
No, extremely dangerous. And how about this? 2 teams with head coaches that do a very good job understanding formation and how to get their guys the balls in space. They're very good at dialing up plays for their playmakers.
Yeah. And Millard South closed out the regular season 34-14 win against Lincoln High. Again, Camden Kozel doing most of the damage, counted for most of the yards, 202 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 78 yards rushing, and a touchdown. Yeah, Lance Rucker and Brock Murtaugh making plays on both sides of the ball. And Murtaugh had an interception and a receiving touchdown. Rucker had 2 touchdowns, 2.5 tackles for loss. So that's that pretty much that trio right there is going to determine how far Millard South goes. And with Kozel at quarterback, they've got a chance to really pull off an upset here against a Kearney team that's been solid all season long.
Yeah.
And finished 7-2 as the 5 seed coming in. No matter what happens moving forward, to put together the season that they did coming into the year, again with one varsity starter back, like
one of the better, and he's fantastic, right? Coach Cool is pretty amazing. We know this. He's played in multiple state championship games and has won one back in, I think it was 06-07. Just status quo for the Bearcats. And how about the job Coach Wisdom has done reloading off a really, really good team? I mean, you don't just lose the guys that they lost a year ago and plug and play. And now he had some key pieces coming back, but he's had some young guys really step up. Amari Jackson, Koziol has assumed the role after great quarterback play at that school the last 6 years.
Yeah. Urban, and Stanger, and now Kozel.
Yeah, like that school is just they found a way. They're always close. Is this one of those years where you feel like they could make a run? They're going to have to find a way to run the ball better. I don't know if they can make a living in 3-by-1 and with quick game and hoping Amari Jackson can make plays. But Koziol is always going to give you a chance because he's played in a lot of big games, not always in football, but you can tell he's a big-time competitor, and the moment is never too big for him. I give the advantage there to Millard South just because of Koziol.
I would as well. Quickly turn the page, Class B. Last week of the regular season, favorites took care of business like they have all season long. You saw some upsets it's 8-7 and 10-9 in the previous coaches rankings there. So 2 really good games at the bottom of the rankings, but a whole lot to a whole little for the top half there. And Elkhorn North, good 27-26 win over Blair to finish 6-3. Blair finishes 5-4. That moved Elkhorn North, and they got the 9 seed there.
Yeah, how about that as a doozy?
Blair got the 11
with Pius and Elkhorn North.
Yeah,
I mean, just like you'd think an 8-9 should be.
Yeah,
that one's going to be a good one.
And then York pulled off the win over Grand Island Northwest, 24-21 there, with the game-winning touchdown catch by Chase Wiegert with 1:27 left. GI Northwest had a chance for a 41-yard field goal as time expired and couldn't get to go.
Seeing Northwest as a 13 almost doesn't seem right, does it? It doesn't that seem
They've had a
little low
weird
for
season.
them?
They've had a weird season, but they did finish 4-5.
Oh, that makes sense. But they seem like they're a more dangerous team than that.
Definitely, they've got a quarterback that can light it up like they typically do, and got some good players there. But they just haven't. They've been in some tough matchups. They've faced some good teams. They just haven't found a way to win some games. But Bennington, I mean, what can you say? They're obviously the 9-0, 52-14 win over Elkhorn Mount Michael. 178 yards for Nick Colvert on the ground. Trey Bird was really good again. They get Beatrice, a 16 seed in the first round, and then the Pius Elkhorn North is winner. We'll be awaiting that one.
Potentially, do you like Scottsbluff and Scott in the second round, or Elkhorn and Waverly, which seem like they always play meaningful games in the postseason?
Yeah.
That would be that's the 4-5 and the 3-6.
Yeah. So the 4-5. So Bennington moves on. They'll get the winner of that Pius Elkhorn North, and then it'll be Waverly Elkhorn most likely if seedings hold the form there. And again, that should be a great game there. We've seen both those teams have similar-ish seasons. They've been not quite hanging with those top teams, but they've firmly established themselves in that next tier throughout the season. Waverly coming off the not playing this past week because of the schedule. And Elkhorn 59-19 win over Westview. So neither one of those teams were tested here. The last game of the regular season, we'll see that GI Northwest we talked about. They're a live 13 seed. They're capable, but they've got to show that they can actually go win a game more than just kind of scare you. And Norris is a 12 seed for Waverly in the first round. And then you mentioned Scott there at the 6. They played Gross 41-14. It just seems like Scott. It just seems like they're a tier below the other, like the top 5 right now. They've kind of showed they put together some strong play for a few weeks there to kind of establish themselves as that 6. But then here, the last chance against one of the top teams in the regular season, and it kind of went the same way that it had against the other top teams. So Scott's got to show that they're more capable than what they've shown thus far. They haven't played Scottsbluff. That's one of those top teams that they haven't played, I believe. They played Bennington, Gross, and Elkhorn, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. The Scottsbluff is the 3, like you said, 8-1, only lost to North Platte in Class A. They get Platte Smith in the first round. And then Scott gets Blair, the 11 seed again, who we like the quarterback play there. We like the start they got off to, but they finished 5-4. And losing that one late to Elkhorn North. Josh Basilovic, 159 yards and 4 touchdowns passing, 166 yards on the ground. It's a one-man show out there for Elkhorn North. But he's done it well. And then the bottom of that bracket there is York as the 7 seed against Seward. And we talked about kind of the win and thoughts out to Dalton Snodgrass, who got hurt in the first half.
He tweeted out that he was all good. I don't know what that means necessarily, but for him to respond and reply back for folks wishing him well, he says, "Hey, I'm all good." And it was good to read, regardless of the impact that he can have coming up this week.
Yeah, and credit to the Dukes for kind of bouncing back in that win, and they'll get Seward in the first round, and then Gross gets Elkhorn Mount Michael as 15 seed. So I don't see. Not sure I see any upsets there in the first round in B. I mean, that's kind of what we've seen all season long. I'd probably take all the favorites there. That Scott Blair is kind of the one intriguing one, just based on the way neither one of those teams I think is playing their best football right now.
Yeah.
But one of them has to win, so that's probably the one that I'm looking at. Otherwise, I think I'd take all the favorites, the upper seeds in Class B.
Hey, let's jump down to C1 real quick, because I got to get your thoughts on teams like Ashland Greenwood being a 4, and what you think potentially. Figure they'll light the scoreboard up, but a potential matchup in the second round for Ron Colley and Aurora, right? Like, that one to me is interesting because Ashland Greenwood beat Ron Colley in a grudger 13-9, to close that one out. But do you see anything there other than it seems weird to see Ashland Greenwood a 4?
Well, I mean, credit to McCook. They went out there and took care of business with their schedule, went 9-0 to steal that 3 seed. Obviously, we know the top 2 are Aurora and Pierce. They've been that way all season long. I think that's what was expected going into the season. So wire to wire, 1 and 2 there. So that 3rd seed was probably the one that was up for grabs. And credit to McCook for going out and earning it. They went 9-0. They passed the tests that came up on their schedule, and they'll get the 14th seed Broken Bow in the first round. He said Ashland Greenwood 8-1. That one loss coming to number 1 there, so no shame in that.
And they've got to have some confidence from playing Roncalli a couple weeks ago, before they hammered Concordia last week. And you got to think to yourself, if you're McCook, Ashland Greenwood, or let's say potentially Roncalli, who's dangerous, who do you think has the most confidence if we take out what we've been saying all season long of this collision course, Pierce and Aurora? Did you think McCook?
I'm sure. I think Ashland Greenwood probably feel like, you look at Aurora's done this season. Ashland Greenwood, it was what, 33-14.
Yeah.
That's probably the closest game that Aurora has.
I think
played
it
all
is
season
19.
long.
I think it is.
So obviously, if Ashland Greenwood wins in the first, like, they're going to have to run up against Aurora again to get out of their side of the bracket eventually. But I think they feel good about where they are at this point heading into the postseason. So they'll get Auburn, the 13 seed in the first round, and then the 5 seed Boone Central and 12 seed Minden is the other game on that side. So that's and then you mentioned Roncalli as the 8 seed. They're playing Lincoln Christian the 9 to kind of go with Aurora the 1 against SCOTUS the 16. So that's the top half of the bracket there. McCook, you mentioned they get Broken Bow in the first round. Then Adams Central is the 6 seed going up against Platteview, the 11. Columbus Lakeview is the 7 going up against Wahoo the 10, and then Pierce the 2 is going up against Central City, which they've got some pieces. That's not a bad 5-4 team, but
the potential of Pierce and McCook is interesting to me if that happens, just because of the intrigue surrounding McCook.
So that's kind of what we're looking at. See, I think, like we've said all season long, Ashland Greenwood is intriguing. McCook's had a great season, but man, there's just so much talent on those top 2 teams, and you can't tune what Carlos Collazo does. He's averaging like over 11 yards a carry.
So the last time I remember somebody being this dominant carrying the football, he got hurt, but Adam Shada, from Millard North, before he got hurt, was playing quarterback, and he was averaging over 10 yards a carry in that Millard North offense. And I'm just thinking to myself, we don't poo-poo that. Like, when a team lines up and you know what they're doing and they can do it anyway, that is awful impressive, because there's some good guys, JP, that aren't going for 10 per.
Yeah.
Right? The Cole Ballards, the Sharmar Browns. And we've talked about Elkhorn South schedule, and he's still not doing it. So I don't want to undersell that. That's a lot of YPCs.
It's absurd what he's done this season. And then you've got the Abram Schulting, Ben Bramer combination there for Pierce. So teams that do it different ways, but supreme talents there in Class C1. Anything that jumps out to you about any of the lower classes there? We previewed briefly the 8-man that started last week. Probably the one big upset. There were a few like seeding upsets there, but the one big one was Cross County going down.
Yeah,
and they got handled.
I jinxed them. I called them a good 3. A tough place to play, and of course, none of that turned out to be true.
But yeah, North Platte St. Pat's is the 1. Laurel Concord Coleridge is the 2. In D2, Howells Dodge made it through just fine. They're the 1. Hitchcock County is the 2. You got Ainsworth there as a 7th seed after 9-0 season.
Dangerous getting
Carter
a chance
Nelson.
to look at Carter Nelson.
Yeah. That kid is a freak athlete. Coached against him basketball this summer. I think he only had 2 alley-oops on us. That was it. And then also BDS is 9-0, and I believe those are all the undefeated teams in D2. In D1, Stanton, the 3 seed, is 9-0 as well, along with the top 2 seeds that I already mentioned. So, and then the Class C2 there, Hastings St. Cecilia is a 1 seed, 9-0. The 2 seed is Ord, who obviously we know has a lot of playoff experience the last few years here. I believe they have the leading rusher in the state right now. So that's the team that's going to be dangerous. The 3 seed is Norfolk Catholic. Again, another team that has a lot of playoff experience in recent years. And then Malcolm is 9-0 too. And Hayden Frank has had a monster season.
Yeah, huge numbers. Hey, keep an eye. If you're looking at D2 and you assume How's Dodge is going to be in the finals, keep an eye on Why Not. Good experience.
8-1.
Good experience. Some fellas back. They're a 3. See what happens with Hitchcock County up there at the 2, but keep an eye on Why Not, which of course means that's the second 3 seed in as many weeks that I talked about. All bets are off after the prediction.
Yeah. We went a little long this week, but I think playoff time deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic recap. We'll be back next week to preview round number 2. We'll see what happens. Don't you miss us. That's Jacob Padilla. I'm ODB. It's Nebraska Preps Postgame.